everybody. Today we're talking about influencer marketing. And if you haven't heard about influencer marketing, let me give you a quick brief on that. Influencer marketing has been around for a long time. I think it's only in the last several years has it really been defined as a legit branch of marketing. It was always pulled into other channels of marketing. So it could have been analyst relations or press relations or something like that, where you're talking to people who are in the industry that can influence the buying behavior of your target audience. But that has really expanded a lot, that category of influencer marketing. If you're looking at the B2C side, I think it's really easy to identify who the influencers are in any given market, because the individuals, it's usually an individually driven industry. You have lots of influencers, people who are, talking about different products and showing that to their social channels. They've built an entire business around being an influencer in the market. But that's not what we're talking about when we talk about B2B. For B2B, we're talking about, and specifically the ones I'm going to define now, there's a lot more that fall into this category, but we're going to look at analysts, press, and podcasts. First of all, influencer marketing is something that I believe is now imperative to any business that's starting out, or even existing companies that have been around for a long time, because as people who are buying these solutions, even at a company, you might be buying a product or service on behalf of a company, you are typically influenced by something in the market. And it's not always going to be content that's influencing you, or it's not going to be an article, or it's not going to be a data sheet or something like that. It is going to be the totality of the things that you look to get your information. And a lot of this is going in B2B is centered around trusting individuals and trusting those individuals to give you the information that you need. These, again, fall to analysts and press and podcasts, because more and more people are embracing those types of areas to get their information. So first of all, let's talk about podcasts. I think that podcasts are still a little bit undervalued. There's so many in the marketplace right now. It's hard to differentiate. There's basically a podcast for anything. When you're looking at B2B, they have risen in popularity. The companies that I tend to talk to about raising brand awareness have embraced podcasts, and it may not have been embraced immediately because you have to sometimes see how it's going to influence your business. But podcasts are fantastic because people buy from people. And on these podcasts, you can be a person talking about your solution. You have a personality. You're talking to another person who has a podcast who influences a huge market. And so you want to have these personal conversations, break down what your business does in very simple terms for the audience, introduce them to the concept of what you're offering, go a little bit deeper if the host feels that that's necessary for their audience. But it's a great way to educate, and educating someone without expecting something in return is how people develop trust in you. So with these podcasts, what I typically have people do is you can talk about the technology, but you should also talk about yourself, what you're doing with your company, how you're changing the face of the whatever niche you're in, or product category or service category. You get to really explain that in a personal level that you wouldn't be able to necessarily in a written document or even in a very short video. And people tune in to hear these conversations. They want to hear somebody talking about something without expecting to be sold something. That's just going to be a natural extension. If you're talking about your product or service and educating, the next step would be, if that person has a need for what you're looking for, they're going to look you up. It's just simple as that. So I would definitely invest in podcasts. If you're an early stage startup, look at, for instance, any podcasts that are free. You want to start with free to test to see if your audience is receptive to it. And you should also have forms on your website when people contact you to ask, how did you hear about me? Or how did you hear about us? So that they can put in there if they heard about you from a podcast, that will start to give you information. Have your sales team or your BD people, when they talk to someone who's reached out to you, how did you hear about us? You'll start to see that there's, as you do more and more podcasts, and you definitely want to keep this cadence up. You don't want to be one and done. You want to, try to do a couple a year if you can, more than that if necessary. But you'll start to see people saying, oh, I heard about you on a podcast. And it might be, you don't sell to them for another 6 months to a year, but that's how you are influencing them. The other thing I would say for podcasts is to start with ones that are around founders, talking about how you came to develop this business, talking about how you are starting to build it and how it's growing. So it doesn't have to be specifically technology focused. It can be around what's the story behind your business. And that starter story is stuff that people will eat up. So take advantage of that. The next category I want to talk about is analysts. And I really do think that there is a huge influence from the analyst community, because analysts talk to not only your target audience and your competitors, but they are writing reports and documents that are going to go out to these same people. And if you're named in a report that is very significant, either you're a new player in the market or you have a very minimal market share in a certain area, just that visibility and getting your name in front of all of the people that buy from this analyst or this analyst community or this analyst firm, that's huge. Like, there's a lot of value behind that. And most of the companies that, especially as you get bigger, you'll put more of an emphasis on analysts and briefing them and letting them know what you're up to. So at the very minimum, I would recommend that you reach out to some of the bigger analyst firms or the ones that cover your specific area and ask for a briefing. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So just ask for a briefing. If you're not a paying customer or a client, you will not get as many briefings as you want. When you're a paying customer, you usually get as many as your contract allows, sometimes, once a quarter or as needed. When you're not paying, then expect to maybe brief them once or twice a year just to keep them abreast. And if you are net new to this audience, you want to make yourself known with these analysts, because startups are usually the ones that are on the cusp of trends, and analysts want to know the trends that are happening out in the market. They may not hear about them from the big companies, because the people that they're briefing at these very large companies may be a little bit disconnected from the actual product itself and the customers themselves. They'll get information, but it's fed through, a pipeline. Whereas startups, usually the CEO, anybody on the executive team is going to be on the pulse of what customers are seeing, what they're asking for, what the product is doing. So, make sure you're in there and you're talking to analysts on a regular basis. The other category that I touched on, or that I want to touch on, is press. And this is very important to develop relationships with the press community, because as you're putting out news, or you have new product releases or partner announcements, or something is happening in the market that you're seeing a trend, you want to be able to feed this information into the press community, because they'll be able to amplify your story, and there's so many eyeballs on the stories that they're writing. So what I would suggest is reaching out to them saying, hey, I have either an exclusive, and if you have an exclusive, don't offer it to anybody else. I have an exclusive on this newsworthy component. Make sure you're feeding them newsworthy information, so that they feel as if they're in the know, and they're going to be putting something out there that nobody else is putting out there. You can also then, once you develop these relationships, is keep them updated on the things that are happening. Did you get a new round of funding? Did you sign a very significant partner or a very significant customer? Did something that your product that you had with your product, did it create something out in the market? Did it help someone significantly? Those types of stories the press wants to know, and they want to document them. So develop those relationships, and it will reap rewards going forward. Don't turn it on and off. Continuous information to all three of these categories: the analysts, the press, and the podcasters, and you will start to really change the tide for your business. So that's all I'm going to cover on influencer marketing. If you have any questions, please email me at rosa@rosalear.com, and I will be happy to answer them. Have a great day. Bye-bye.